What is up, Quakes fans? We're back with another episode of Tectonic Takes. We are here after a 3-0 win against San Diego. Devon, how are you doing today? How are you feeling after that win?
It is a beautiful Monday afternoon. San Jose Earthquakes win 3-0 versus San Diego FC. One of the highest scoring teams in the league, and yet we still managed to shut them out at home while scoring 3 goals as well. I don't know. I haven't been able to wipe this smile off my face, nor have I been able to stop thinking about that Niko Takes first goal of the game. Like, oh my God. I think we had talked about it in the press box, but like that game had so much to offer. Do you want to talk about it, Abram?
I mean, yeah, there was multiple things going on. It was obviously a very good Quakes win. There was plenty of goals, but there was also a broken sprinkler, um, and they had to like squeegee all the water off the field in the start of the second half. Yeah, it was a great press conference as well. There was Bruce did get a little bit chippy with some guys, but it was fun at least, and it didn't happen to me. So I mean that's a plus.
Yeah, well, you
But
certainly called something, Abram. There was a question I wanted to ask Bruce, and you're like, "No, Devin, you're gonna get yelled at."
yeah, Devin was like, "Should I just ask about Ricketts' injury?" And I was like, "I don't think Bruce considers him injured. I think you'll find more value asking something else." And then somebody else asked, like, "Hey, what's up with Ricketts' injury?" He was like, "He wasn't hobbling. You're crazy."
Maybe mentally he was hobbling, but physically, no.
Yeah. Um, no, it was. We can put that clip up.
Any concern about Ricketts coming out? He was one of your last true left backs, and
Ricketts coming out?
Yeah, he walked off the pitch.
Because he was substituted for.
So that was an intentional substitution. I thought because he was hobbling a little bit before then. Is there any concern about him moving forward? Or
He was not hobbling, maybe a little mentally, but not physically.
very good. That was my misunderstanding.
Obviously, I felt really bad for that guy because Ricketts did take like a contact before that, and like shortly after he was substituted. So I don't think it's the craziest assumption to make. And he'd been running all game. It was obviously a sub for more fitness than it was for like an injury. But it wasn't a crazy question. You had the same question for the
Yeah, I
most
mean,
part.
I had noticed that he was somewhat limping off the field when he got substituted too. So it wasn't too far-fetched of a question to ask, but when it comes to Bruce Arena, you got to ask the right questions, and I think you channeled your inner Bruce Arena and helped us both out with asking the right questions during the press conference. So thank you for that, Abram.
Of course. I mean, I've it's not that I've been yelled at, but I've learned kind of what to not ask him. I still don't know what I should ask him. I think the right answer to that is he doesn't. He prefers if you don't ask any questions. His ideal press conference would be to just show up and leave. Um, and if that's too mean to say about him, I'm sorry, but that's the vibes. He doesn't seem to want to answer a lot of questions. So it is what it is. On the flip side, Niko Takes was the player that we interviewed. I'm really glad that you got the opportunity to ask the question you did, because I think that was the question on a lot of people's mind. Where we were talking about it, Devin, right when it happened, when Niko scored that first goal, we were like, okay, well, he probably just expected a corner out of that. Like that's the kind of way you shoot it, because what else are you gonna do? But you don't expect to score it.
Like you shoot it in hopes that you get a corner and you bring more players up the field, whatever, you have a better attacking chance. And yet, like it went in, and like his initial reaction was kind of shock. Like, did that really just go in? But I'm gonna go celebrate like I knew it was gonna happen. Like, I don't know. I could be misreading it, but from that angle, almost no striker expects for that ball to go in. That was the most perfectly placed shot you can ask for. And well done by Niko Takes.
Yeah, I think the keeper was just as shocked as Niko was, because you don't usually get beat at your near post, but you also don't expect it to go top bins from the near post like that. He probably could have done better, but I don't know. I think that's a very well struck shot, and if I'm not mistaken, the xG on target for that goal was like 0.72. It's pretty high xG on target, not high xG overall, but when you shoot from there and get it into that top corner, it's a pretty high percentage that you're gonna end up scoring that. So yeah, very surprising. We'll put the clip in of Niko talking about that goal because I thought that was a very good question, and I thought he gave a really well thought out answer.
Yeah, I think you shoot to score. You shoot to score always. But yeah, I think it was just a transition moment. We knew that we were going to get chances off a transition. Preston played me the ball, and I had to get a shot off, and yeah, I tagged it. So it was great.
We love hearing from Niko Shakaris on these press conferences. I hope that he gets the opportunity to get more, and obviously the way to do that is to play well in the games and get on the score sheet or get an assist. Stuff like that is what gets you in these press conferences. We also brought up the fact that before this match, we had been saying we want to see more from Niko, right? Not that he had been playing poorly or anything, but like there's just a little bit more that we'd like to see from our starting number 10 in terms of like assists and goals and stuff. And then he really brought it against San Diego. Do you have anything to say on that, Devon?
Yeah, I think you're right. He brought his A game for sure. And it wasn't just like, I think we had some criticisms for Niko and just more of like the development of play, bringing the ball forward and maybe adding more of a final touch to, a scoring chance or scoring opportunity or laying the final pass off for someone. Obviously, he led the league in the first couple game weeks of key passes. He really stepped his game up and had a really good tandem with Preston Judd. He made a lot of wall passes, 1-2s, two-touch plays. He really put himself in the middle part of the field. He was a threat centrally, and I don't think we've seen as much of a threat as we did versus San Diego with Niko. And maybe we can contribute the red card in the 33rd minute to the advancement or the importance of Niko in the middle. But also, two of those goals were before the red card. So, or I guess one was before the red card, and then the second one was because of the red card.
Yeah,
so,
result of the red card.
Yeah, the result of the red. So, I really do think that the red card did have, somewhat of a factor in the overall look of how good Niko played in the middle. But also, at the same time, he dominated the play, lateral passing, forward movement, going back on defense, tracking back, tracking your man, all those little things that we had seen Niko kind of progressively excel at. I think Saturday night was the very first time where we kind of saw Niko provide 100% of what we were asking to do. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for me, we saw the Niko that I would like to see all the time. Like the finished product looks similar to this. That's a good thing, right? Like he played like a player who's like beyond his years. He was super effective and efficient. And like you were saying, he didn't have a brace because San Diego was at 10 men. He got a brace before that. Technically speaking, like the penalty kick wasn't like, oh, we got that because there's one less player on the pitch for them. He got that when they got the penalty when there was 11 players on the field for San Diego. No, this was a great performance from Niko. I think that if you look at this performance and you take away every goal, say this is a 0-0 game, I still think that Niko is probably man of the match, just because of how he's conducting the play, how often he's getting involved, how good he looked. He could have gotten a hat trick. He could have scored more. There was one chance in particular where he kind of got the ball stuck under him on a 1v1. And if he was just like, it felt like he was too excited. If he was just like a little bit more present and collected, I think that he would have scored that no problem.
I think he also had another chance too in the second half where it was like a close to the top of the box, curler to the top left corner, and the keeper barely had like a tip save over the top of the bar. So those two chances alone could have given Niko a hat trick. But yeah, no, to your point, like he was dominating the field and generated his own chances, and not just for others too.
100%. And we can't lie and say that this game doesn't, we can't say that it's not impacted by the red card. This isn't a 3-0 game necessarily without that red card, because San Diego looked good. They're a good team. But when you lose a man, and not only lose a man, but you concede a penalty and then you're down 2-0 and you lose a man, that you're pretty much done there. But my dad and I were talking about this before, when on the drive home. My dad's probably watching this. What's up, Juan? Shout out, Juan. He says that if that penalty isn't called, which there is a world in which that penalty is not called. We've seen more egregious calls. Then we're 1-0 and we don't necessarily have a penalty to go to ahead, and they're at 11 men still. This isn't necessarily like a game where we're guaranteed to blow them out in, right? We had scored a goal. Niko got that goal and it was really good. But up until that penalty was called, we're like, well, San Diego still has a chance. They're very much in this game. They look good. They could, pull it together. Dryers could pull something out of the hat, and we're 1-1. And, if we had tied 1-1, that wouldn't be the worst result for us, considering how good San Diego has been this season. This is their first loss in MLS play. Not ideal, but it wouldn't be the worst result, all things considered. But no, we did get those calls going our way, something that doesn't always happen for us. And no, we took advantage of our opportunities. I think that sprinkler, Devon, probably took away some focus going into the second half, and they looked kind of like it took them like maybe 10 minutes to get back into the game. I didn't think that they were the bloodthirsty team that went into halftime when they came back. They were kind of just juggling around, hanging out, and they were 3-0 up. Every reason to feel complacent and confident in winning this game. I think that if that sprinkler thing doesn't happen, we could win this game by like 5-0. Like, no problem.
Yeah, I think you're right. First of all, shout out Squeegee. That was a really fun moment. But second, yeah, I think you're right. The squeegee / broken sprinkler definitely had a major factor to our performance in the first 10 minutes. Kind of piggybacking off of what you said, like, the players seemed to struggle to find a rhythm, and there was a lot of misplaced passes. San Diego was picking up a lot of opportunities to move the ball forward. Thankfully they didn't. Looking at the shots and shots on target here, San Diego still ended up only with 1 shot on target and 6 shots. So they didn't generate too much to give Danielle a hard time. But nonetheless, the Earthquakes weren't what they were in the first half. They, misplaced a lot of passes. There seemed to be like a lack of communication. Players just weren't on the same mindset. And then after the 10 minutes, you can finally see them getting back into the rhythm, making those normal passes, progressing the ball forward. What I liked most, actually, was after we found our rhythm again, we found a lot of opportunities to play the ball centrally and then redistribute that wide. And I know that has a lot to do with Niko Takaris, and we just finished talking about him. But I think it has a lot to do with Bo LaRue as well. We had touched up on this earlier today, but Bo LaRue wasn't necessarily just found in the middle. He was also moving himself out wide and generating spaces, not just for himself, but for others who would also kind of make underlaps centrally and create his own space, whether he's in possession or he's off the ball. Something that I was really impressed with in the first half was the fact that Bo LaRue just, like, he was dancing. He was dancing with his feet, with the ball. There was a good opportunity where I thought the ball was, he had the ball on his feet and he was just dancing through the San Diego back line, maybe 2 or 3 guys, and then found a shot. Unfortunately, it didn't go on target, but, he created that opportunity for himself when others may not have been available. And those are the kind of individual creativities, chances that I've been asking for, at least for the last couple of years now. You see a lot of selfless play, but also that selfless play kind of results in just like a dead ball scenario or possession leading the other direction. This is something I've kind of like thought about maybe about 5 minutes ago, but it was almost like a Vaco-esque moment. And I know a lot of Earthquakes fans don't like Vaco, but Vaco was known for his individual creativity, and it brought me back those kind of memories watching Bo LaRue dribbling through most of that defense, and also like individual skill in the midfield third of the field. You know, we we didn't really see too much of that from any other player on the team apart from the select couple like Oseni Buddha and whatnot. But Bo LaRue stepped up his game, and sure enough, versus San Diego, I would say he shined. Maybe third best player on the field.
Well, so who's your second best? Because for me, obviously, Niko's first. I'm sorry if you said it, and I was looking at stats. Who's number two for you?
I did not, but I think number two would be Preston Judd. He was directly involved in all three goals.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, numerically, of course, Judd. I mean, we're gonna. So let me break this now. Just to be clear, we're gonna talk to Judd about his charity. It will be uploaded separate from the podcast this time because our upload schedule is different from when we're able to actually record that show. Very excited to do that. It's gonna be. We're gonna highlight the charity in Poppy's name. Poppy is Preston Judd's dog, who he honored with his celebration where he pretended to urinate on the corner flag. Very, very, very cool. He told Saz, shout out Saz, that he was going to do that before the game. He said, when I score, I'm going to do this. And he did end up scoring. And, that's very cool. But for me, it's just the way I like to judge games. So this is completely biased and people are free to disagree. I think that Baloo had a massive impact on this match. And I know that numerically in terms of like goals and assists, Judd did do better. But Bo is everywhere, and Judd missed too many chances. He missed a header. He missed he missed a few chances. So again, that's where this game could have been like 5-0 if Judd is like he scored obviously, and that was a really good pass from Bo to find Judd in that spot. Great for Judd to find himself in that position, but for me, I don't. It's hard for me to look at a performance like that from Bo LaRue and then put Judd ahead of him. But I totally understand why you would. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just like, I'm offering a different perspective because if he doesn't score that goal, I don't know if that's, well, if he doesn't score that goal, then maybe Bo LaRue doesn't get that assist. So, that's another prerogative to that. But let us know what you guys think in the comments. Who's your top three in this game?
Yeah, I think another, shout out could be to Benji Kikanovic, because Benji had that one opportunity in the first half that led to that, Preston Judd first time miss in front of goal, which I think, to your point, was unguarded by any defenders. Nobody was anywhere near Preston Judd. He could have taken a touch if he wanted to. But, when you're in front of goal, you're not thinking about, oh, should I take another touch? I just want to score. Which, unfortunately, he missed the net. It happens. It's a striker moment. If anyone's going to miss the net, it's going to be a striker. But, kudos to Benji Kikanovic. Benji put himself in the right position. Had a great pass. I think it was by... I don't want to name names, but it was a great pass out wide to Benji. Took a couple touches forward. Crossed it right into Preston Judd. And, situation happened. But
I don't want to give you a hard time, but that pass that you're talking to where Judd on his left foot first time,
that's
a Scain pass.
A Scain pass, okay.
Yeah, but there was a cross that was in the air, a really nice whip cross by the end line from Benji, and I think that you're conflating the two. Because Benji did have a really good cross this game as well. But I think that opportunity just to not get us roasted online by the trolls out there, that specific one was a Scain cross, which I think is like one of the biggest contributions he had to that game in terms of chance creation.
Yeah. Well, either way, I think, Kikanovic had himself a really good game, especially as a right back. Still, 6 games in, Benji still has not conceded a goal from his side of the field. And And I think that's telling, and there's a lot of layers to that as to why Benji has improved his right back game, and why he's not conceding any goals. I think the dynamic between him and Roberts and Muni whenever they interchange is really important and valuable to their comfort in the back line. And now that we don't have DeJuan Jones, he's all members of the back line have to adapt to that loss. But Benji specifically is furthest away from that, so he has the least worry. But to your point, Jack Skane, he was Benji's partner for the game, as the right winger, and I think those two had a really good combination throughout the 90 minutes play. And we had normally seen that with Oseni Buda and Benji Kikanovic, and I think that goes to Benji's character, that he's able to adapt to different player kind of roles or character types throughout each game. Whether you put Jamar Ricketts in front of Benji, whether you put Oseni Buda, it's almost the same result. Benji performs game in, game out. What were your thoughts, Abram?
No, I think Benji's been huge. I would be remiss in not mentioning that that Seattle goal, the only goal we've conceded all season, it wasn't from his side. DeJuan was cut out, but he was held onside by Benji, just being a little bit behind. But that's not really like, oh, Benji is a terrible right back now. Like that's not what that means. He has been extremely solid. And he might not have made that cross into Judd that we were talking about earlier, but I think that his contribution defensively is massive. Nobody gets by him because they're not faster than him. They're not stronger than him. They can't win the ball from him in the air. And he's not even a right back, really. Like, he's playing there because he's really good at it. But, like, if you ask him what position he is, just he'd probably tell you that he's a forward just because how he is. But no, he's adopted this right back position, and it's kind of like an aura of, I don't care where you put me. I'm just gonna do Benji things, and he does those things really well. Super happy that we found a good place for Benji, because he was kind of on the island of misfit toys a little bit, where it's like, where are we gonna fit him right now? But I think once Bruce saw what he had to offer. We'd been saying it all last year. I was like, I think Benji is a Bruce type player. I think Bruce would really like Benji if he gave him a chance, and he did. He gave him a few runs at right back, and then he hit his head on the advertising board, and so he had to be out for a little bit. But now we saw this season, now he's fully fit. We're using him a lot, and ever since we saw him in Coachella, pocket Wilfred Zaha, we've been singing Benji's praises, because he's really hard to get by, and it's been working in our favor. Not just having Danny Mooney, who's the fastest defender in MLS. Reed Roberts has been very solid, and obviously DeJuan Jones. We love DeJuan Jones and Ricketts, who played really well. Benji has been, like, for me, probably one of the most consistent players throughout the whole team this season.
Yeah, and also I do stand corrected. I just watched the highlight of Jack Skane passing it to Preston Judd, so I apologize for the misidentification. But the next person I actually wanted to talk about was Jack Skane, and Jack. For me, he had a 5 to 6 out of a 10 performance. There was that moment that we just talked about with the pass to Preston Judd. And there were small moments of progression up the field where Benji kind of laid him a through ball, and then Jack kind of held up play to bring the rest of the team forward, which I think was great and creative to helpful for the rest of the team. But I didn't sense much danger when Skane was in possession, and that's not to say Skane is bad, a bad player during the game. I just think he didn't contribute consistently throughout the 90 minutes time to give him anything more than a 6.5 out of 10.
Or in at least in comparison to the rest of the team, who played out of their minds. Buddha on the other side had I'm looking at the FOutMob ratings right now. He had a 7.4. Skane had a 6.8, which is not bad. It's just like it wasn't an outstanding performance. It's pretty average. And I think that's a really that, like you said, 6 out of 10. I think that accurately describes the game for Skane. I think that there's obviously value in Skane. We've always said that he's really good value. He was always available to help progress the ball when Niko would get in the midfield, or Vieira, or LaRue, Benji. They had him open to play him into space, and then he would give the Bombino a really hard time in terms of having to track back and make sure that he's preoccupied on defense in that capacity. And there was a little segment where Dua and Skane had a duel, and Dua ended up going down, which was coward's move. That's why he got sent off later. But Skane almost got the ball back, man. Like, Dua threw himself on the ground. We saw the replay.
And it didn't look like a foul that much. It just looked like he tossed himself down.
He tossed himself down. And obviously we are biased, but we watched it, and I don't know. He looked like he jumped down. There was contact, of course, but he didn't have to fall over, is what we're saying. So yeah, not a bad game at all from Skane. I think that, again, there's value. Paul Marie came on for him in the 57th minute, and I liked the way that he combined in like the half spaces in the lanes in between. And maybe he wasn't as fast to in terms of like the transition. Skane is a faster player probably overall. So you can play him into space, and then he'll be able to run onto it. But Palmieri isn't quite as quick in the transition. But what did you think of Palmieri's performance at right wing overall?
I think he contributed a decent amount. I mean, the difference between he and Skane is, I think, the 1v1 success rate, or at least the visual test, the eye test in terms of 1v1 success rate. I saw Paul Marie with a lot more composure on the ball and trying to take on his man 1v1 and generate space for himself. There were a lot of moments, I think, obviously the second half when he was subbed, but when Paul faked to the end line and then cut inside and found a man to pass to, or found a shot for himself. I think Paul Marie did a really good job with generating opportunities and then leading to potential rebounds from the San Diego goalkeeper. That's something that, like, if I were a coach, I would love to see more of in players, is to create your own chances and to have the composure and confidence to take on your man. Because, I mean, soccer is an entertainment sport, and one of the things that provides entertainment is the intensity. And Paul Marie brings that intensity. And I know we talked about it last week with his comparative stats, attacking stats with, a couple of other players. But that's something that you see out of Paul Marie's game. You don't see out of, maybe a couple of others, is that intensity and intensity rate throughout the 90 minutes period. And that's why he also scores bangers, because he wants to bring the ball forward, and he wants to win the game. And that's how he wins the game, is by putting the ball on target and moving it forward. So I liked what I saw out of Paul Marie, and I liked his defensive work rate as well. I saw him tracking back a couple of times and supporting, the back line with a couple of challenges, or at least, blocking the passing lanes centrally, which is, I think, helping disrupt the flow of play that San Diego was so used to, especially through, like the midfielders like Anibal Godoy, who didn't really have that good of a game as a substitute late in the game. I think there were several moments where, Paul Marie was kind of like man marking. I don't remember who it was, but he was man marking a player. And something that, I guess, now that I bring it up, our back line was also man marking, but, we can talk about that in a minute. But specifically to Paul Marie, he provided a lot more offensively and defensively for San Jose, and I really hope that next game versus Sporting Kansas City, a team that isn't is going through a bit of a struggle right now, hopefully we can see more of Paul Marie next game because I really liked what I saw.
Yeah, I agree. The stats favor Scan here, who did play it twice as much, so not surprising. But Palmery didn't have a bad game from what I'm looking at on FOTMob. But what I liked from the eye test that the numbers can't really tell you is the mentality when approaching the opposition's box. Palmery looked he looked more interested in finding a penetrating ball or dribbling and moving players out of position to make something happen. Not that Scan doesn't penetrate, but he is more looking to do the safe thing. He will go to end line and put a cross in. If he sees someone in the box, he'll pass it to them or he'll recycle. And nothing wrong with that at all. It's very good to have somebody who can do that for you on a consistent basis, especially somebody, again, with a lot of speed that will give you verticality. So having both those things, very valuable to have. But Palmery, also being an option, I don't think that it would be too detrimental to the squad if we wanted to, give Paul the start and then bring Skane off the bench to give tired legs, more trouble. A reason why I liked having Jamar off the bench at times. Speaking of Jamar, he played well in my opinion. He was the second player with the lowest stats here on rating on FOTMob. He got a 6.8 along with Jack Skane. But he didn't play poorly at all. I thought that he looked really threatening on the left-hand side. And he wasn't challenged too often defensively, but he did. There was many times where I was like, where's Jamar? Like, where is he at? And he was on the other side of the pitch. He was too far up. And obviously he's very fast, but he's not always going to be able to get back and get to that position. So I think that in a different game, that could have been really difficult for us. Like, say we're playing Nashville and Jamar just, leaves and freaking Christian Espinosa is by himself, running at our back line. That's a very scary thought.
Yeah, and something I wanted to touch up on, as mentioned maybe a couple of minutes ago, but do you think that may have had to, obviously we're not going to watch the footage now, but do you think that could have had something to do with the observation we made in the first half where some of our backline players were playing more of a man-marking Almeida-ish role in their positions? Because we had seen Reed Roberts all the way out on the left back side, and then also, Jamar Ricketts moving into center back, following specific men. Do you think that may have had something to do with it approaching this game?
I mean, it could just be a specific thing for this game. I did see that. That is something that was very palpable. Where there was they weren't going according to their position. It was they were following a certain player. And Dryers was, marked pretty heavily, which he should be. That's the correct thing to do. I don't know, because we see a bunch of different things defensively. I've seen 3 different defenses over the season so far. We played 6 games. So it's not something where I'm oh, we're a man marking team now. We're a team who can man mark. And then against a team like San Diego, who like to play out from the back, who like to move the ball around, it could work. But it really, it's going to be a situational kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't expect the man-marking situation to continue on to Sporting Kansas City. I mean, maybe LAFC, with Benji man-marking Buanga or something like that. I can see that happening, especially with how good Benji has been lately. Both players with good speed and Benji with good defense. I could see a potential man-marking situation in LAFC. But, the point being, versus San Diego specifically, it's not. I don't expect it to continue into the following week, or even versus in the U.S. Open Cup, where we play Phoenix Rising FC. This seemed to be a one-off thing, and to kind of dig those attacking claws by Dreyer kind of further into the ground, so he's got less movement. And it seemed to have worked, given that they only had one shot on target, 6 shots, and total team XG of 1 throughout their entire game. I think, our back line, whatever Bruce's tactics were approaching the San Diego game definitely paid off. And obviously the red card contributed to our success. But it was just an interesting to know, and I kept an observation of that man marking situation all into the second half, and I didn't see it as much into the second half, and maybe we were just playing with a more calm stance throughout the second half, and the fact that we were a man up, we didn't have to follow a specific man, and we can kind of sit back and absorb pressure and then counter. Maybe that was a factor, but yeah, it seemed to have been a significant factor in disrupting play in the first half, and I was quite satisfied with it. I think versus big teams, that may be something you see out of the San Jose Earthquakes again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really a case by case kind of thing, and something that might be illuminating from Niko Chikaris in the press conference was he said, it might have been during your question, that they knew that they were going to get chances off the transition. The counterattack, they didn't obviously know that a terrible pass would be played back to the back line like that, which is how that first goal happened. But they were manufacturing their defensive formation to make attacks on the transition happen. Just from the words that Niko said in the press conference. And I think that's pretty telling, because that's, what happened in this game and how we got those goals. Bolaroo kind of, he was in a spot, and he put the ball around the defense because they weren't set yet, on the Judd's goal. Just kind of putting them on their back foot, and then, striking while we have momentum is seemingly how we got the goals against San Diego here. But obviously, if we were to ask Bruce any of these things to see if he agrees with our tactical analysis, we're not getting much. So you're just going to have to take it from us. That's what we're seeing. If you guys agree, then great. If you disagree, I don't know, pick up your own microphone.
Let us know.
Yeah. But no, you mentioned the game against Sporting Kansas City coming up. We beat them earlier this year. I don't have a lot of worries about this game. This was a game where I was looking forward to this game after this really rough stretch that we just had. Looking into it in the past, I was like, that Vancouver game is going to be hard. The San Diego game is going to be hard. And the Sporting Kansas City game, that's going to be a breath of fresh air. And we're coming into it having won our last 2 games without conceding. So, and then, Sporting going into this, losing 3-1 to Real Salt Lake. And I got to watch the highlights for that match. They didn't look good. Their defense looked like they didn't want to be there. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the highlights, but I'm pretty confident about this game. What do you think?
I did not get the chance to watch the highlights, but I will state, that was our opening game. We also scored 3 goals. Guess who was the goal scorer in that game? Preston Judd. So, Preston's in good form. As I said earlier, I think he's got, coming off a win with 3 direct involvement of 3 goals. I think his form will continue into Sporting Kansas City, and I'm not expecting Preston Judd to score, but despite my, slight, fires of criticism here and there about his game, I think he's in good form right now, and I think Preston Judd is something that we need, or someone that we need versus Sporting Kansas City, because he's the grit that we need in a game where, maybe skill isn't necessarily the number one thing to pull out a win. I think it's just simple passing, simple movement, and simple finishing in front of net, and that's what Preston Judd mostly provided versus San Diego that I think will carry into Sporting Kansas City. What do you think, Abram?
Yeah, and I agree. I think that is the type of player he is, but it's not the full picture. I think that, he also has a lot of skill. We saw him take on players with more success in this match for me. That's something that has been kind of mixed. No offense, Preston. But he looked really good dribbling the ball against San Diego. He got the assist on that Niko goal. He in the second half, I remember he had a really cool dribbling kind of moment. So, we might. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, and that's not to say that he hasn't been good yet. He has been very good, but I think that there is more to come. I think that he just has to get hot, and we've seen it before. He gets a goal here, and he'll keep going. He likes to chain them together. This is a really good game for him. I think that we will be able to find him in good spots. He just has to finish. I think that's really it.
Abram, tell me if I'm wrong too. You can correct me. But in the second half versus San Diego, I saw a lot of what I've criticized Preston Judd for is the lack of 1v1s and the lack of take-ons, and when his body is pushed away from goal and he's not facing goal, we're used to seeing him kind of struggle in terms of like what to do next. But I think the second half of Preston, he could have actually had maybe one or two assists, because there were moments where his back was turned to goal, but he also found the composure to turn his body and create space for himself, and then pass it across goal, and no one ended up being there to slot it home. But I think there's an elevation to his game that he picked up comparative to the last couple of games where he was able to create space for himself and put the ball in locations that are dangerous, and other players could have slotted it home, but unfortunately they didn't, and Preston didn't get any assist or credit for anything. But I think the opportunities were there, and Preston put himself in a good position for success.
Yeah, I mean, the main criticism I have is just the fact that he missed a few. But that's going to happen when you're a striker. You're going to miss because you're going to be shooting a lot. And the only thing I would say is that, like, some of those were to be scored. I think that header, even if it's just on target, I would have been very happy if it was on target and the keeper saves it. I'm like, well, yeah, he's a threat. Just the fact that he kind of whiffed the header, I'm not there. I didn't see it. Like, sometimes headers are weird, right? They're just a little bit off. All you have is your neck to kind of angle yourself, But for me, I'm like, you should have done a little bit better there. I think that he can. Like, I think that he's fully capable of doing a lot better. And I think that, like, he had a really good season last season. I think 7 goals. I think this year we could see him easily surpass that. With up to double digits, even. I was gonna say even more, like triple digits. Like, oh my God, Preston Judd for Ballon d'Or.
He's almost halfway there, and he's a starter after 6 games. I think he's technically on track for half of 34, 17 goal season. I don't think it's gonna happen. Obviously, yeah. I don't expect Preston to score 17 goals, but he's scored on average 1 goal every 2 games, so there's a chance.
Yeah, there's every chance, and he's also somebody who can score multiple goals in one game. I think that like I said, we haven't seen the limit for Preston. I think that the reason we're talking about him is because of what he has to offer us, and he's our main striker right now. It's a lot of teams, when they get a striker, it's like a DP guy, like Petar Musa. I don't know if he's actually a DP, but he came from Europe, like a big signing. Who's another one? Cavacita was a big name signing. Chicho Arango when we got him, and then for other clubs, he's been a DP. It's just that kind of thing. In this league, it's not the norm to have like an American playing striker and winning all these games. We have a lot of Americans in the squad right now, which is something that Bruce touched on. That we're doing this with domestic players, which is not the norm across the league, where they have like South Americans, Europeans everywhere. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see what we're able to do with this squad, because I don't know where we rank in terms of like the highest paid, but it's nowhere near where some of those teams are, like Miami, LAFC, even Vancouver.
I think it's funny because a couple of years ago, our squad was completely filled with Brazilians and Argentinians, and now we have the highest, I think, percentage of Americans on the team. And that, like, I'm not trying to say anything, obviously, because I just think it's an interesting thing to notice in terms of like changes over the course of years after a couple of seasons and management changes, that kind of like what you said, a couple of other teams in the league are kind of reliant on those DP9s. We have Preston Judd, who's making around like 100K something a year and is nowhere near DP salary, but is also putting in the hard work and putting in numbers for the team, and is generating good chemistry with Osani Buda, Timo Werner, Jack Skane, Niko Takaris, especially Niko Takaris. The tandem of the two, whenever they play with each other, it seems like there's fireworks going on in both their heads, and they're just firing on all cylinders. I think that's a relationship I'm looking forward to assessing next week, to see kind of what their impact is as a duo, and what they can do to a struggling SKC defense.
Yeah, and they are struggling. It was really a lot of the goals. I was like, "What are you doing? Like, are you not paying attention?" And obviously, it's the highlights, so you don't get the full picture. But if you're doubting what I'm saying, go ahead and watch them. The main thing that they have that does give me some pause and make me a little bit worried is Joveljic. They have Dejan Joveljic, very good striker in this league. He looked really good in that game as well. That goal he ended up scoring was a banger, and then he almost had a second goal, which was just allowed because he was offside. But no, very good player, and also not just a good player in this league, but likes to score against us specifically. It didn't happen in the last game against Sporting Kansas City, but he was knocking on the door. So that is something that I am looking at, and that could be where the threat comes from. But overall, I'm pretty confident in this game. We have somebody in the Discord. Shout out Sam, the first name, because that's what he calls himself on the Discord. He says that this is a very scary game. He was more scared against of Sporting Kansas City than San Diego. I'm like, no. Because he said that, like, a very historic team. We're playing at their stadium and whatever. I'm like, sure, but they look really bad right now. And, I don't think that you can predict that we're going to lose just based off of what they were before.
Yeah, I think that argument does have some merit, though. I'll give Sam some credit because, going in MLS specifically, away games are much tougher to win. However, we already have 2 wins away. We've beaten Philadelphia Union, which every team seems to be beating this year. They haven't gotten a single win in 6 games, but we've beat Vancouver at BC Place 1-0. If there's a team to perform away, it's the San Jose Earthquakes. Don't count us out. Don't count us out.
Yeah, that's 100%. And I agree. There is definitely a very strong home field advantage here in this league. I don't think it's quite strong enough to make Sporting Kansas City that much better. Like, they looked really bad. They couldn't field. They didn't have their bench full last time we played them. And I'm not trying to dog on them, but like that's just a fact of where they are and how much they're struggling right now. They're going through a rebuild, and we've been there. It's very tough, but just if I'm looking at who should win this match, it should be the San Jose Earthquakes.
Yeah, I think a really good meme to accurately depict Sporting Kansas City's current form this season is that one video of the, I think it was the SKC fan of "Ain't nobody gonna stop us now," and then they get hit in the back of the head, and everyone goes, "Oh!" That's what it feels like to be an SKC
Yeah.
fan right now.
If we could find the clip, you should put that in because that's funny. But yeah, like we said, looking into this match, we should be looking at a good result. We will be back next week on Thursday for the live audience. The Patreon will get it one day early on Wednesday. Also, keep a lookout on for the Preston Judd interview. That's something that we're very excited to do. Again, that's something that the Patreon members will get early access to. And they will get to submit questions as well. We'll be back before the LAFC game on April 19th to preview that game and also give you the recap for the Sporting Kansas City game. Because of the way that our schedule works for the we won't be able to preview the Open Cup game and get you the episode on time. Just because we release on Thursdays and that game happens on a Wednesday. But also looking forward to that game. I think we should be the favorites in that as well, seeing as we are playing at home against a USL team. But I'm kind of more nervous about that game than I am about Sporting Kansas City. Devon, real quick, any thoughts on that game?
I am too. Yeah, I'm a lot more nervous than SKC, specifically because of the unknown of, we don't know who Bruce Arena is going to play. We don't know what the level of priority is going to be like for us heading into US Open Cup. We don't know if, Niko Sakaris will be our number 10 for the game, or if it will be Jack Skane, or if, we're going to do some squad rotation, and instead of Vieira and LaRue, it could be Harks and Gonzalez, Jonah. So I think that part alone, the factor of the unknown is what scares me the most, and it's not necessarily, Phoenix Rising that makes me nervous, because I think it's a USL team and we should be able to beat USL teams, especially at home. It's the confusion of importance heading into the game. And if we field a good starting 11 like we see right now, like versus San Diego, and we take the tournament seriously, which I know a lot of our fans in our Discord are asking us to do, or not us specifically as hosts of this podcast, but the Earthquakes management and players. It's been a long time since we've held and lifted a trophy. I think it's about time that we start somewhere, and somewhere is US Open Cup. I hope we field a strong starting 11 with maybe one or two tweaks and changes, but hopefully that's about it. I know it's a midweek game, and we've got LAFC right after, which you want to have a specifically set of fit players to compete versus LAFC, because they're just an attacking team, and you want to have that 90-minute stamina, but also it's understanding that importance of wanting to make it into the next round. And I'm not sure. I'm really unsure of where we want to go with this. That whole LAFC game has kind of thrown me into the mud here.
No, yeah, I think that wanting us to field our starting 11 against Phoenix and then also win or get any sort of result in LA, too much. You're asking too much. You're deluded. You can want that. Of course, you can want that, but that's not going to happen. It's great for us that we get an extra day for the LFC game. It's on a Sunday instead of Saturday. No, we're either going to put in our second team, like B, some C players for the Phoenix game, or we are going to accept the loss against LAFC, and because there has to be a rotation at some point. We have a thin squad. And so it's not going to be a squad where we can make rotations and have a MLS competent team. We have a squad that's like, we didn't think that Roberts would be a MLS quality player at this stage, and we're lucky that he is, because we only have one other center back on the roster in the first team right now. That's Romney, right? Who's any other center backs?
We do have Max Floriani, but we haven't seen him on the roster at all this season. But kind of going back to current Floriani's state, where is he playing? Quakes 2.
Yeah.
There's another player on Quakes 2 that I'm really hoping that we see in U.S. Open Cup, since we're on this topic.
Yeah.
And that is Nani Adimabua.
Yeah.
I hope that Nani gets some chances, because he seems to fit the mold of playing against USL teams, MLS Next Pro. He does a really good job with finding space in between defenders. And, if we want to give Preston Judd a rest, whom, has played for the Galaxy, who may also have a chip on his shoulder. He may not like the Galaxy anymore now, but, he's played for two teams that rival LAFC. Who knows what he's going through and what he might bring to the table for that. So I honestly would hope that we rest Preston Judd quite a lot in the midweek game against Phoenix Rising FC, and play Nani. I really want to see Nani, and I know a lot of other fans are speaking up in favor of a Nani appearance too. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm getting at with when I'm saying, like, you can't expect Judd to play and then Judd to play and then Judd to play and then Judd to play. It's not sustainable. We have a Wednesday game 3 days after that LAFC game. Guys, like, our front line is thin. We need to put Adimabua on in this Open Cup game. He's a very good striker. He's not just like a big dude, like a rock in the box. He can make chances for teammates. He's well rounded. I'm really hoping to see him. I hope that there's a rotation in that aspect. And a lot of people will be like, "Oh, why are we playing this guy? He's never played for us before in the Open Cup. Don't we want to win the Open Cup?" Yeah, but like it's not guaranteed we win the Open Cup, and it's just because we put Preston Judd. So we could lose that game. We could start Preston Judd, lose that game, and then Preston Judd's tired for the LAFC game. We lose that game, and then he's tired for the Austin game. We lose that game. Like there has to be some give somewhere, and I think this is a good opportunity for that. Because as much as I would love to win the Open Cup, we look really good in MLS right now, and so it's hard to sacrifice that. And I know some people are saying that we should, because we want to. They see the Open Cup as something that is like has our name written on it. I would love to win the Open Cup, but I think that a lot of teams have the same mentality as us, but they have more depth than us, and so they see the Open Cup with their name on it, and they're going to be gunning for it. So I don't think it's like necessarily like an easy achievement just because we want it. I don't think it's going to work that way.
Yeah, are there any players, Abram, you're hoping to see on Quakes 2 right now for the U.S. Open Cup versus Phoenix? I have an answer, but I want to see what your answer is first.
I mean, Noni is the main guy for me that I want to see, because just for the overall season logistics, I think that Edwin Mendoza would be really nice to see, because I think that people would be surprised, although I'm not sure if he's fit right now. He's playing for the first team, but Fernandez would be really nice to have at the number 10 if Niko is not available. One more player, Max Floriani, I think will be there. I think that's like a pretty given. You want to touch on Floriani?
No, I'm in complete agreement with you. Actually, there was the player in 2025 that I thought was going to have a breakout season this season, and it was Max Floriani, and he hasn't seen the field at all for the first team yet. And I hope that maybe we can keep Daniel Muni in there, or Max and Roberts. I mean, both our current center backs have kept a clean sheet for 5 out of 6 games. That I don't really think it matters to me too much who we replace in the back line. I just want to see Max get some minutes, but also maybe we rest Benji Kikanovic. Maybe we have some injury preservation and hold off Benji, and we play Jack Jasinski on right back. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Jack Jasinski would be a really good pick. I was surprised with his mobility the few times I've been able to watch him. But it's been a lot busier for me this year, so I haven't been able to keep an eye on Quakes 2 as much as I'd like. But he looks pretty good. Big fella. It would be great to have him. He can play center back as well, I believe. But yeah, versatile player overall. I wouldn't be mad at Jack Jasinski at all. I think that Romney at left center back, Floriani at right center back, and then Jack Jasinski at right back would be pretty good. I'd be happy with that. Just because Floriani has a good amount of MLS experience. Romney is Romney, very solid. I'm not sure who you put at left back there. You could put Marie. You could put, I mean, I was hoping for Marie anyways, so I'm obviously going to say Marie. But
I'm with you.
Yeah.
With you. I think Marie should get some minutes, but also who would come on for me, Marie as a sub? I genuinely don't know, and I'll have to study the rules here, about like rosters and who we get to play or field. But if I remember correctly, I think last year we were able to call up a couple of like non-contracted Quakes 2 players for like 4 games or something like that. And maybe we give a Quakes 2 player that I can't name right now a chance to be substituted in the second half of the game, just to see what we can get. And since we're already a thinly drawn out team, I expect us to give our substitutes some time to prove themselves in U.S. Open Cup, because that's what the Cup is mainly about. Obviously winning a trophy and getting yourself qualified into CONCACAF Champions Cup and whatnot, but give the young guys who haven't been given an opportunity a chance to play.
yeah, I could see Martin Quende Jr. Making an appearance. He's been left back pretty consistently for Quakes too. If it wasn't him, I wouldn't be super surprised just because of the way that ends up working. But it would be a pleasant surprise if we did see Martin Quende Jr. Make an appearance in the Open Cup. But yeah, we said we were going to end it about like 5 minutes ago. So for real this time, we gave you a mini preview on the Phoenix Rising game. Looking forward to that one. It's going to be very interesting. I'm doing stats for that one, so it's going to be a rough day for me. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Tectonic Takes. Make sure to subscribe and go ahead and look at the Discord if you haven't already.
Quakes 2 playing Minnesota United FC 2 this Sunday, PayPal Park. I will be there, hoping to see some familiar faces too.
Yeah, say hi to Devon if you end up going to that one. We'll be back we'll be back before the LAFC game. But until then, go Quakes.
Go Quakes.